Good morning. I'm Bob Moeller. I'm the president of the board of directors of your Homeowners Association, of our Homeowners Association. And I want to welcome you and thank you for coming. It's always good to see people that are interested in the governance of Ford's Colony, and this is a big deal to have votes. Today is not your typical information meeting, town hall meeting format that we have. In fact, this is an interactive opportunity for you to hear from the candidates, but then ask them questions and hear kind of what their views are, things that are of interest to you and your neighbors, and see what their views are so that they'll help you in the voting. One of the things that I would ask of you is, it's great that you're here, and I know you're going to vote. What I'd like to get is a lot more of our neighbors and fellow residents voting. So that means during your neighborhood visits, during your social visits or anything, please talk up. We've got 20 days more to vote. It ends on Friday the 31st, and we will have an opportunity, although we hope everybody's voted by then, at the annual meeting, which is on the 1st, which is, I believe, 3 weeks from today, that we'll have ballot votings and counting. But it would be great if we could get a lot more. I'd like to get up to 50 or even better than that percent participation in the voting. And I don't believe we've had that in the past. I want to thank Denise Nugent and her nominating committee who interviewed and got us our great candidates that we have up here that you'll hear from today. I'm going to introduce Denise, who's going to give you kind of the ground rules and to our panelists. And also note that we have Jenny DeMille back here, who's our videotaper, so we can post this on the website so you can tell your neighbors, if they didn't have an opportunity to come today or to Thursday night, that they can view this on the website and they'll see kind of the interaction that goes on to help them as they vote. With that, Denise?
So I need another broken foot. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. As Bob said, my name is Denise Nugent, and I'm the chair of the nominating committee. We're very excited to have 4 very qualified and capable candidates running for 3 positions on the board of directors for Ford's Colony HOA. So I'd like to introduce Ken Spencer, George Spalthoff, Chris Schwanker, and Sally Frazier. I just want to take a few minutes and explain the format of this evening's meeting so you know what to expect. This morning, did I say this evening's? That's a twofer for me already. This morning's meeting, just as soon as I'm through speaking, the candidates will be coming one at a time to the podium for their 4-minute or less introductory statement. After that, it's time for you, the question and answer session. We have 2 microphones in the audience that are manned by nominating committee members, so if you're patient with us, raise your hand, we'll come to you, and we ask that you stand up and identify yourself and say where you're from and ask your question. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be rotating questions among the candidates. For instance, Ken Spencer will get the first question, and he has 2 minutes to respond, and the other candidates, after he's through, will also have 2 minutes to either answer or respond. Second question goes to George, third one goes to Chris, and we'll just kind of rotate through the morning. And we've allotted 45 minutes or less time for all your questions, but I think there'll be plenty of time to answer all your questions. After all the questions are done, we'll have a 2-minute closing session. So each of the candidates will have a 2-minute closing session and give you their comments. And as Bob mentioned, we are videotaping it. So if you get bored in the next couple of days and you want to watch this whole thing again, you can. But mainly, we want you to talk to your friends and neighbors when you're at Wine and Dine, BYOB. Hey, have you voted? Have you looked online? Watched the video? You don't have to watch the whole thing. You can spin through it. But we did both sessions, and we'd really like you to look at that and read the top of the colony bios that were in January before you vote, so you really get to know the candidates. And finally, if you wouldn't mind just turning off your cell phones, that would be helpful to us. Thank you. And Ken, we're ready to start.
Thank you. Thank you, Denise and the nominating committee. Welcome this morning. I'm glad to see this good turnout, that you are interested in Sports Colony and what we're doing here. And this vote for the Board of Directors is important because this is the governing body that represents you, that makes the good decisions, that keeps the quality of life what it is. I moved down here after we retired full-time, and I like this community so much I immediately went out and volunteered to be part of one of the committees that works with the Board of Directors. I was on the Finance Committee for 5 years. I had an opportunity to also be the liaison to the Roads and Program Management Committee that does all the repairs and cleans up the colony, keeps it all nice for us, and help them prioritize what they need to do to keep this community what we all expect it to be. Part of that is working with the Landscape Design Committee, who's really sprucing up our entrances and making it look great. So in my 5 years here, I've seen this structure do a lot of good things for us, to keep our property values up, to keep the community like we want it, to keep the infrastructure working the way it is. Now, along the way, we found some problems. And you've heard about all those problems. You've seen the articles in the Talk of the Colony about all these problems and that. And I think we've come up with the best solutions possible for us, the residents. So I support everything they've done. And as part of the Finance Committee developing the budget this last year, we supported what the board decided to do as far as fixing the drainage problems and addressing it. So with that, I'd like to say the reason I wanted to do this is, again, I want to participate in the management to make sure that we make the best value decisions as a board of directors for you, the residents here in Ford's Colony, so you can have the community you want it to be. And I'm always open to talk to anybody that wants to talk about it, give their opinion. So, and if elected to the board, I'm going to go and work with all of the spending committees and all of the residents that want to talk to me to make sure we have all the information needed to make the best decisions. So with that, I'll turn it over to George.
I don't think I need Denise's notes. Good morning. Thank you for coming. I'm George Spaltoff, and I'm a candidate for the board. If elected, this would be my 6th term. I've been on the nominating committee, the security committee. I was board treasurer for 8 years. I've been board president for a year. I currently chair a club. And maybe you figured out by all of that that I really like this place. If you read my 400 words in the Talk of the Colony, you know I've been here in Ford's Colony about 18 years. We just moved into our second home, building a second home, highly overrated experience. And it was a decision because my wife and I simply did not want to leave Ford's Colony. My priorities are quite simple. Keep Ford's Colony the premier community in the Williamsburg area. Support increasing home values by keeping assessments as low as possible while providing excellent activities, excellent maintenance, excellent opportunities for anybody to be involved in almost any activity they want, all the while providing a safe and secure environment. That's my priorities. That's my mission statement. If I didn't believe in that, I would not be standing here this morning. Coming to completion last year, I chaired a 16-month project where a new managing agent contract was bid. Beginning with 12 companies, narrowing it down to 3. We had formal written proposals, we had formal oral presentations to a committee of 17 HOA leaders, which I chaired. Some people were not happy with how it was done. However, I want you to realize that the comment that I remember throughout this entire process came from one of the biggest companies in the United States. They said, and I can quote, "We have never before responded to an RFP with this detail. We told them what we wanted." Okay. Not everyone agreed with the process that I led, but I went up front and got guidance from the Community Associations Institute. We have a successful 6-year contract with 2 possible years of extension. It's economically right for us, and it ensures that we can have the quality of life that we believe in. The board faces some difficult issues in 2020. You've heard about the drainage pipes. We're continuing to work on the proffers and master's plan. We have indications the CCRC is going forward. Eagle construction is probably not done. New Zion Baptist Church is our latest thing, and that's turning around James City County. There's a meeting Monday, the 13th, at 2 p.m. in this room, if anybody's interested in that. And of course, here at home, we need to keep this place shining bright. I'm running because I believe I can help with favorable resolutions to all these issues via my experience, my energy, and my dedication. I'm a fiscal conservative. In other words, spend money where you need it to make this place premier and to keep our home values increasing. I continue to be knowledgeable of Virginia law. I attend the seminars, the conferences, and interestingly, Virginia does change the laws by which we operate a little bit every year. I ask for your vote. I'm dedicated to do my best. I do my homework and I listen. Not everyone can be happy with every decision the board makes, but nobody can debate that Ford's Colony is a great place to live. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Chris Schwenker. I hope that you had a chance to read my bio in the talk of the colony, so I will try not to repeat much of that information. Instead, I would like to tell you what I hope to do if elected. I believe I am knowledgeable, capable, and more importantly, have a strong desire to do the job. I'm aware of the drainage pipe problem. The board and roads and project maintenance committee's plan is well thought out, and I support it. I want to help make sure the RFP and signed contract with the pipe contractor shows the same due diligence as just the one just completed for the management contract. We need to make sure we are protected now and in the future. I want to help continue the excellent work of the Facilities Committee, of which I have been a member. And they've been doing a great job of keeping our facilities and amenities current and worthy of being a premier multi-generational community. I want to assist the Volunteer Management Committee to secure more members and make our current volunteers know that they are appreciated. It must be noted that if we had to pay for the expertise we have in Forge Colony, the budget would probably be near double. I would like to make sure that we continue to stay on top of these issues. The proffers, the Eagle Construction Project, the CCRC project, as well as the latest concern, the New Zion Baptist Church. All of these are important to this community and should not fall through the cracks. The board worked through a lot of issues last year and will work through a lot in the near years to come. In the coming years, with your support, I would like to join my fellow board members in keeping us number one. I kindly ask for your vote.
morning, everybody. I hope you all got your cup of coffee, so you can listen to us and stay awake. I want to add my thank you to all of you for coming out to listen to me and my colleagues concerning our interest in running for the Board of Directors. I'll make this brief. My bio with my education and work career are in the January talk of the colony. You might ask why I'm running for a second term. I asked. I did waver about running for re-election. However, I realized that I enjoyed much of the time I spent on the Homeowners Association matters, and that after 2 years, I have enough background to bring something to the table. For the first 6 months or more, I spent a lot of time listening. Now I still listen to my colleagues, but I bring ideas and questions to the discussion, and I understand the issues. One of the areas I discussed when I ran for my first term was that I attended as many committee meetings as I could in the approximately 6-month period I was running for the board. I'd like to emphasize that I've continued that attendance. Although I do not attend all 13 committee meetings every month, I regularly attend roads and project maintenance, finance, and the landscape design subcommittee. And as liaison to the volunteer management and facilities committees, I attend their monthly meetings. I find this is the way to be on top of what is happening in Ford's Colony. It's important for me to get as much information, background, as possible prior to a proposal coming before the board. I urge you in the audience to attend committee meetings, or at least review the minutes on the website each month. There are a number of issues in which we were and will be involved. It's the intent of this board to improve communication with the community. In addition to recording the major meetings and putting them on the website, we've made an effort to provide more in-depth articles in the Talk of the Colony and issued a colony-wide satisfaction survey answered by 43% of our residents. An important addition to our communication efforts is Coffee with the Board, which was created by Ray Van Cott. This gives individuals an opportunity to have a dialogue with a board member in a smaller group setting. The next one is coming up. I should know this date. It's coming up Tuesday. This coming Tuesday. There are still spots, so if you're interested in meeting, Bob Mueller is running it. It's going to be here, so just talk to him later on. And you
CSB.
It's CSB, okay. It's going to be in CSB. Okay, I'm sorry. Just talk to him later on. Another major milestone at the past board was the completion of the 6-year management agent contract. I was part of the committee and spent a considerable number of hours over more than a year in completing the project. George told you about his involvement, but I'd like to detail just a little more. He chaired the committee. He did an excellent job of planning and organizing the documents we received and required to send out. He chaired the monthly meetings, and which became more frequent at the end of the session. He coordinated the interviews and the visits by the interested bidders, and he worked with our lawyer many months after the rest of us finished to get a final contract. We have also spent time on the 2020 budget, eliminating proffers, development of a capital investment fund for amenities, drainage issues, Westport B, the continuing care retirement community on News Road, and now the proposed development of an area adjacent to the Zion Baptist Church. As I concluded my speech 2 years ago, all the candidates are capable, sincere residents who want the best for Ford's Colony. However, I hope you feel that I will bring experience and enthusiasm to the job. I look forward to working for you over the next 2 years to keep our community fiscally sound, our amenities well maintained, and our property as beautiful as it is now. I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, candidates. Now we're going to open it up to your questions. Okay, I see one in the back.
Can I have a little more information? Can I have a little more information on the drainage program?
The drainage?
Drainage.
Could you give us your name, please, sir, and where you live?
115 Royal Melbourne.
And your name, I'm sorry.
Bob Elsie.
Thank you. Ken, do you want to start?
Sure, I'll start with that. As the finance liaison to the Roads and Project Maintenance Committee, I was intimately involved with all of the detail on the drainage thing. What we have is we have a lot of pipes that underneath our roads that take the water, rainwater and runoff water that comes around and funnels it down into the drainage ponds and then the drainage creek to get it out. A lot of this infrastructure is very old. We knew some of it would have to be reworked, replaced, repaired, and we planned for a lot of it. We ran into an issue in Southport that was unexpected. We found that we had some failures that resulted in collapses in the ground. And so we hired MA hired a crew to come out, put cameras through the pipes and find out what was going on. And in that, we found that there are a lot of pipes in there that are failing prematurely to what we expected. Because of that, the committee prioritized what need to be replaced, what could be repaired, and submitted a detailed plan through the Finance Committee to the Board of Directors, which was eventually approved in this budget. And what you saw is the outcome of that plan. That's to get it started. We don't, at that time, at the time we did this in October, we did not have a good actual count of all of the pipes around the Ford's Con. There's a lot of them out there. We have a lot of acreage, we have a lot of pipes running under a lot of roads. Part of the plan is to actually put cameras under these pipes and look at the conditions of every single pipe so we know definitively which ones need to be worked, which ones are good to go. We found a lot of pipes that are great to go. They'll probably last another 30 to 40 years. That's fine. Now we need to find out the total truth across all of them. So that's what you're seeing with it. And the plan is to address those pipes that are most critical needed right now with this assessment that came in. And that will get us started on fixing the infrastructure.
I'm not going to repeat all of that, but what you've seen in the assessment for the pipes that has come is over the course of this year, it's a $400 assessment, $100 each quarter. There's roughly 3,000 homes times $400 generates $1.2 million. We already know from the work that we have done in Ford's Colony with pipes having been videoed that we have a $1.2 million problem. What we don't know is what we'll find when we do the 60% videoing of all the other pipes. What we do know is that the pipes in question are pipes that were put into the ground between 1996 and 2003. So the sections of Ford's Colony that were developed during those years are the ones that are suspect and require the further examination. We extrapolated, figuring if everything is running about the same percentages. In other words, if the number of pipes on the streets that have to be dug up, the number of pipes on the streets that can be relined, the number of pipes that are okay, that all intact, we get to about $3.4 million. We've put money for the next 10 years into the capital reserve plan of approximately $1.9 million to cover this. If you add $1.2 million from the special assessment with $1.9 million from the capital reserve plan, you come up with 3.1. We are also applying and have been successful getting some money from James City County. We also believe that we can save some money by doing some of this work in bulk. By bulk, I mean bring a contractor in and give them a number of feet, not just one small piece to do. And I believe the plan is sound. Nobody likes to levy a special assessment, but I believe the plan is sound and we must take care of the infrastructure. Because can you picture the headline on the Gazette that says 100 homeowners stranded as road caves in? It would not be good. You're up.
How could I possibly follow that? I will say one thing though. Thanks to the due diligence of the roads and project maintenance and the managing agent that brought this issue to our attention as quickly as they did, us the opportunity to have those 42% of the pipes inspected, cambered, and that's what they're basing the future damage on. We can hope, although it's not always a good hope, that the remaining pipes won't be damaged and that money can be saved. So the board did a fine job.
Well, with all that said, there's not much left for me, but I will mention the pipe that is the most problematic for us is called HDPE. Now, I know nothing about that, but I've learned that term, and it is single-walled, and that was the standard that was used at the point in time the pipes were put in the ground. So it's not as if somebody didn't do the job properly, as best we know. But we also know now that if you use HDPE piping, you now use double-walled. That is the standard. Okay. The other thing he mentioned, Chris mentioned, is we have done so far about 40%, videotaped about 40% of the pipes. And that came up with our $1.2 million if we did the work over a period of time. Of that 40%, 20% was found to be inadequate, was bad, needed replacement, needed repair, needed lining. Our two options are total repair, tearing up roads, tearing up wherever it is, and putting new pipes in. Or our second option is called lining. And lining does not tear up the roads. Costs more in the range of $85 per foot versus $325 if you tear up the roads. So our primary goal is to get to as many pipes as possible and line them. We are lucky on roads and project maintenance that we have a gentleman there who has an expertise in this and has worked with us over a number of years. So we're fairly confident that this lining is going to be an excellent product and that it will last almost as well as if you put new concrete piping in. It's going to last 20 or 30 years, not something you have to repair again in the near future. I also want to mention in terms of the money, it was also someone, I think George mentioned, since we're going to try to do as much work up front, not spread it over 10 years, but let's front load what the work we're going to do, we now find that we can get a 20% reduction in the cost on videotaping, and we can get 17% reduction on lining the pipes. So that's one of the reasons we decided with the assessment to go first year, let's get the money in and let's attack the problem. It also reduces our risk, which is a major concern as well. The longer we let these pipes sit in the ground, the more chance we have for some major problem. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's some good discussion. Do we have another question? Ben, okay, thank you.
Gail,
Identify yourself, yeah.
yeah, Gail Miller from 105 Kirsten in the Grager Downs. And I guess, George, I'm addressing you. Someone said something that really caught my attention, and that was the elimination of proffers. Now, I understand that Westport, in that area, Eagle Construction had presented plans that were disapproved. But I'm wondering, with the modifications being made right now, the surveying is being done for Centerville Road for an intersection stoplight. What kind of proffers were we, Ford's Colony, on the hook for Centerville Road, and what are we doing about it?
There's a whole lot of questions to be answered to what you just said. First, on Centerville and News Road, I don't believe we were involved with any proffers for that particular intersection. We are concerned about Long Hill Road and our main entrance. There is some concern that there was originally a deceleration lane coming into the main entrance. That's one of the proffers. There is also the need that they wanted us to be doing traffic studies, which are expensive. We have been able to secure a traffic study through one of our partners. We think it's going to be successful and the county will accept it. There is traffic lights, there is widening of Long Hill, What you're seeing right now in Long Hill is phase one. There's 2 more phases. We could be involved with that. But this all goes back to, in James City County, starting about 2 years ago, they decided that because of state law that they did not believe that they had the right to be charging profits in the way that they were. So they have stopped charging profits. I'm getting to the next part of your question. In doing that, when Eagle Construction went forward, there was no opportunity for Eagle Construction to offer a profit, which is money to the county. That's what it amounts to. Now the county is reconsidering that and is probably going to bring forth this early part of this year a proposed proffer amendment to their laws. If that happens, which says that, okay, a builder could offset further impacts to the county, to the roads, et cetera, for infrastructure, thank you, that could very well then be enough for Eagle to come back with another proposal for the land that they still own on Centerville. I don't believe that Eagle is going to go away. They are here, active in James City County. They're building actively in Newtown. They're a reasonably big company. I think I answered those questions. The specifics for what is in the negotiations with the county, with us, I'm not able to openly tell you at this point in time. It is a contract negotiation, if you will. What I will tell you is the HOA is working towards having control of its borders. We want to be able to take care of what the surrounding properties that could impact us that are a part of the HOA. We have, the CCRC is a part of the master plan, not the HOA. Westport is both pieces, so the Churchport, half of the Westport property. That is still part of master plan and the HOA. So I mean, there's a lot of complications, but I am not at liberty to tell you what the negotiations are at this time. You want to follow that?
Oh, boy. I keep following George, and he is just so knowledgeable. But I promise that if elected, I will become as knowledgeable as him. And I will work to make sure that Ford's Colony takes ownership of our master plan, because that is very important. Once we have ownership of our master plan, then they have to come to us to make sure that they do what we want. We have an opportunity to say what we want to say and to make them do and follow our rules.
And they have to listen to us.
And they have to listen to us.
Okay, well, I guess part of the problem that started with these proffers, I'll give you a little more background. Surely the two of them covered 90% or maybe even more than you needed to know. But the original proffers included a traffic study every 5 years that the developer was supposed to do. What happened when the developers left, the county says, you, Ford's Colony, own these proffers now. We, for a long time, said, no, we don't own them. The developer's the one who offered them to you. We didn't. But at this point, in order to negotiate and to lessen the impact of the proffers and eliminate some of the ones that are really nonsensical, we're negotiating in conversation. The thing that the county, one of the reasons we're in this position is, if the county had been smart, they would have had money in escrow from the developer for proffers for the future if the developer had ever left. And that did not happen. So it gives the county some incentive to deal with us, not only from a lesser position of power to have that conversation, because they also know they should have gotten the money in escrow to have these things done. Also, with the major cost item would be a traffic light at our main entrance, Ford's Colony Drive. as George said, one of the groups who owns some property near Eagles has done near Eagles Cliff, has done a traffic study and has presented it. We're working with a group along Fords Colony Drive to attack these properties. And they're really, the fact of the matter is, since we're mostly built out, we don't need traffic studies anymore. You now know how many people are here, you know how we use the entrances and exits, and how many people are going in and out. So the only area that has a little bit of a question mark to it would be Fords Colony Drive, where one group owns some property up by Eagles Cliff, and another outside company owns property near Marsh Hawk 1. The Fords, under some entity, still owns some properties along the drive. So we have negotiated an agreement with these various entities that they will accept our architectural guidelines. And that's an important thing. So you're not going to get a southwestern something or other building along next to Eagles Cliff or something like that. So you have a good board and you have a good management agent. They're on top of what's going on, and I think you could feel you're in good hands. If you have any other questions, we'd be delighted to answer.
Ken?
I think they've covered the whole issue for you there. My comment on that is, watching this from the Finance Committee, I see that the board has been very diligent with consulting with the right people, consulting with the lawyers, consulting with the county, and they're making good decisions. As George said, a lot of the negotiation is still going on. It will be going on for quite a while, but I'm confident that this board and our management agent will get these all resolved, and we will end up with a master plan that the homeowners own that defines what our community and the surrounding area will be.
Thank you. Is there another question? Yes, sir.
Chuck Buell, 112 Killington. This is going back to the drainage pipe again. We know what has failed at this point. Are there any projections of future failures based on other experience around the country? So we know what we're going to have to go beyond repairing what's failed.
There's no way these two people can know the in-depth stuff that we had. All I'm going to say quick up front is we've cameraed other stuff besides where we know the HDPEs. Go ahead.
So what's gonna happen is, we gotta discount to camera all 60% of the remaining pipes, and we'll have a report on that probably by May or June. We will then, the board, I hope, from what I have heard, is we'll then take another look at that 60% and add any of the former pipes to the plan and then work it out from there.
And just a point I'd like to make, although I don't have a crystal ball, I honestly believe the assessment that we have and are currently paying this year will cover most of our problems, considering that we have money in the reserve, have put $190,000 for the next 10 years into the reserve, which you pay through your normal dues. That any extra that we would need would easily fit within our due structure, our fee structure, as opposed to having to go for an assessment. Now, granted, I don't know, maybe all the rest of the 60% is going to just fall apart and the roads are all going to, I'm making up this story, in which case that would not be true. But based on what we've seen and based on how we put the money away, I don't expect you to have to assume that, oh my God, we're going to do this other 60% and then next year you get another $200 assessment. I think we've got that pretty well thought through.
And just from my experience with the roads and project management and looking at these, I have to give kudos to that committee. We have 7 or 8 members who are licensed, certified, experienced civil engineers. They deal with this stuff all the time. we have one of them on the committee that is dealt specifically with drainage pipes. And he's the one who brought out one of the options we could use on those pipes that are not fully failed is to line them. And that's put a thick coating of a material in there, polyurethane material in there, that will make it stronger than the original pipe is. So I don't think there's a historical factor that you can say that this is around. There's a lot of speculation on what caused it. I won't even go into that because it's all speculation. But I think the plan they have is the right plan. It will fix the infrastructure for us. It'll fix it in a timely manner on the most urgent ones, and it'll cover the future needs that we have, as George said. There's a plan out there. There's money reserved in case we run into more problems. And they'll do it in the most economical and best value way for the residents here.
Couple more details. We've looked at the other types of pipe that we have in Ford's Colony. We have corrugated steel and we have concrete. We've looked at the double wall pipe, which is the pipe that's been put through since 2003. We haven't found a problem in the double wall pipe. That's good news. Some of the corrugated right now that we have is as much as 36, 37 years old. Some of that is in the plan because there is some issues with that. We haven't seen anything in the concrete pipe, although we do know under Ford's Colony Drive, there are some big concrete pipes and there is some, there is some movement of these pipes so that they're slightly occluded. We don't know. Right now we know that we have possible solutions. You asked if there was other stuff in the horizon. This community, sections of this community, the infrastructure is 35 years plus. Most of this stuff was originally put in our capital reserve plan with 50-year lives. We expect to see from here to there. We never expected to see one type of pipe begin to fail in 15 to 16 years after it was installed, and that's what we've seen. And that's the single wall HDPE that Sally referred to.
Was there any guarantee when it was put in?
No. Other than it was a certified pipe at the time, through both the county, the state, and everybody else certified it for a 50-year life. Obviously, 5 years after it began being used, to take it off the market and replace it with something that was better, right? The existing board, the committees, and a whole bunch of other people have found out more about pipe in the last 4 months than I can tell you I ever wanted to know. But I think we're there. We know what we need to know. And we're taking, I believe we're taking the right actions.
All right, thank you. Is there another question? This would be going to Sally. Bring her down.
Hi, I'm Lori Rowe, 100 Royal St. George's. I have a question about the traffic study. I understood that it was done by Wells Fargo Bank at Centerville, not whatever roads you were mentioning, and that if that's true, that might have an effect on the Eagle construction project. So that's my question. Was it done on Centerville, and what would it show?
Sally.
Yeah, it was, yeah, exactly. The traffic study that was done was for every exit of Ford's Colony. That's when they do a traffic study, it's the entire community. So the issue was they do not see a need for anything at Centerville at the current time. There's certainly not a problem at News Road, and the ones where we have the traffic lights, it's fine. The only remaining issue was where there's going to be more considerable building or potential building with the potential condo/apartment style housing to add more residents is along Ford's Colony Drive. So that's what's being focused on. As George said, with the right-hand turn coming in, do you need a traffic light? Do you need a circle? Which, Lord God, we all hope no more circles. And at this point, the this point, although I don't believe a final decision's been made, it seems to be leaning towards we do not need a traffic light at the Fords Colony Drive. And we don't want one because it costs $500,000, and they aren't suggesting that they're gonna pay for it, they're suggesting that we would pay for it. So it's important that your board, and in particular, it's been Carmen Kleiser and Bob Mueller who've been working with the MA and with the county on trying to eliminate these problems.
Sally kind of covered that very well, and just echo that the board and the MA are working very closely with the county on all of these issues, not just the traffic studies and that, but they're aware of it. They bring the experts together to help analyze the information they find and to come up with the best recommendations for the community, as the community, to benefit the community. So I'm confident that they'll get resolved in the proper way.
There's truly not much else to say about this issue, except that we do have a very cooperative situation with our two supervisors at the present time. They're supporting these efforts. Nothing moves quickly through government, and this is not different from that.
I promise if elected, I will become as knowledgeable as George and Sally are about all of these issues because they're important to Ford's colony.
Thank you. How about one more question? Yes, sir. Just a second. This will go to Ken first.
I'm Patrick Cox, 112 Seminole, and also Vice President of the Fords Colony Swim Team, the Division II champions last year.
Yes,
And- I don't know if you're aware of the situation we had last summer where due to a heat advisory, pools were closed here in Fords Colony. However, other facilities stayed open, including pickleball courts, tennis courts, basketball courts, golf club, walking paths, fishing ponds. And what happened then, we had to then move our home swim meet to another location where board members and volunteers had to take half day of work off, moving equipment over there, sound systems, all of our tables, everything. And so it was a big hassle. I guess what I'm wondering is, what is your position regarding heat advisories and closures of our various facilities here in Fords Colony?
A lot of stuff in there. Every year, as part of the budget process, we go through a detailed analysis of all of the facility needs for Fords Colony and kind of make a value judgment as to which ones need to go at what time, what upgrades need to go at what time, and what is best overall for Fords Colony. And I think there's been a lot of ideas thrown around and different ideas, but it all goes through our facilities committee to look at those to make sure which is the best value for Fords Colony overall. We've got a lot of people that want to do a lot of things. We have a lot of clubs out there. Normally almost into the hundreds now. And they each want a little piece of their special thing. So it's a deal process. It works. The end run is we end up getting what we want, what we need most for the community, and fix things we have to fix and change things that we have to change and upgrade things we have to upgrade. And it's part of a big plan that we have to go forward to do that.
That didn't answer my question.
We're going to go down.
Him gave the woman
Yeah, we're going to go all the way down the line.
The board had to make a very tough decision to close that pool. But when the temperature of the water was sustained at what was believed to be an unhealthy level, right, we closed it. And we realized that you folks were shifted to, I believe, to the whisk pool, which is an indoor pool, which is less affected by the outside temperature. we have looked at, and the facilities committee is looking at, the opportunities to keep the pool at a cooler temperature, to keep the water at a cooler temperature. It would mean a much larger chiller because of the surface area of the pool, and it's all kinds of engineering statistics, but we'll tell you. But going back to what happened last year, it was basically based on our concern that the temperature of the water was basically unhealthy for the swimmers. Other pools in the same situations, which is what we did, we went back and checked other pools when the temperature reaches, I want to say 98 degrees or something, and don't quote me on that, I'm not exactly sure what it was 96 or 98 degrees, they also closed. The other activities that you quoted are not activities where you have to be involved in that situation. You can play pickleball in the morning, you can do stuff in the shade, you can do many other activities. Golfers are known to be crazy out on the golf course at 100+ degree temperature. But the immersion into the water where we knew we could not cool it, and we tried with cannons and we tried with the chiller and everything else, it just would not cool the water. That was the reason for the decision. It was purely a health situation. What I can say is the facilities committee is looking at the possibility of some other advancement with our pool to try to keep the water cooler. But right now, I believe if we had that same situation again, we would make the same decision.
Having been in charge of those pools for 10 years, working with the managing agent, I know that water temperature is a definite problem. I think they solved the problem towards the end of the season with the additional water cannons. The facilities committee is going to look to make sure that we have additional cannons, if necessary, to keep the water temperature down. So it's progress, but it also is, that's 167 gallons in the Mojave Desert. It's very difficult to chill.
I believe that the temperatures that we experienced in the pool were higher than we had seen in the past for over a longer term time. This was something new for us. Our primary concern was children in danger. Now, Drew Mulhair had given us a chart of various, there are a number of authorities who say what temperatures are appropriate for what level of swimming and what level of activity. And in the case of our pool, by the time you got to late morning, you were at the high level, you were in the danger level of every one of those indices that we saw. So our concern was not putting children in danger. They don't have as much choice. A person who is our age and goes out in the pickleball court can quit after 10 minutes if they say it's too hot. I'm just going to go inside, I'm going to sit down. A child, I think, generally goes and does what parents do or what all their other friends doing or swimming or doing something, and if they get overheated, they may not have the sense to come out of the pool. If the adult doesn't have the sense, you say, at least you've had the age and you should have had the sense. You can't say that to a child. As they mentioned before, our cooler was inadequate. It was fine for prior years until we're now experiencing hotter temperatures in this area. And so it no longer services what's needed. And the way we found out was we had this higher than previous summer temperatures of the pools. So we did our best to make a decision. I know we disappointed a certain number of folks for doing that, saying that the pool at least was cooler than the air, but even so, it was. We made a decision that we thought was best for the members of the community.
Thank you. Is there another question? This will go right to George.
Don't advertise
That's why there's so many hands.
Hi, I'm Kelly Arney, 109 Broadmoor. I'm the president of Ports Colony Swim Team, Patrick's partner. Thank you for your support previous years for youth activities. I'm interested to know what else the board can do to support youth activities, in particular financial support. Our parents already pay participation fees for swim team, for summer events, spring fling, Christmas events. How else can the board support our youth activities in our neighborhood?
The board currently supports the swim team to some degree, as you know. And we also support Colony Kids with financial support as well as support from the EMA for the organizing and help of organizing. I recognize that you folks pay out of your own pocket some additional amount of monies for these activities. We have not had a proposal come forward to us for anything. In fact, we just this past year had difficulty finding somebody to take over Colony Kids, as you might be aware. We totally support that. We have in the past, we've spent money on the playgrounds, we've spent money on supporting the various activities as it goes forward, making sure the right type of mulch is there and everything else. I believe this board is very open. If there's an organized activity for the children coming forward, we would consider it, and I think we would certainly be more than willing to consider it for the simple reason that we realize that we have a multi-generational community and we need to take care of the younger folk.
Miss Kelly, if you ask, you may receive. It's the only problem is you haven't come forth, none of the clubs have come forth and offered a proposal to the board. I think that they would be more than willing to at least listen to your problems. But part of the problem is maybe some younger folks could start coming to meetings, hearing what's going on, and be able to be a voice in what happens.
I would also say, a couple avenues. A couple avenues instead of coming directly to the board would be to go to the activities committee because they oversee some of the clubs that which the kids join. And the other place to go is the facilities committee, who has that capital investment fund that they're looking at to words are escaping me. English is not my first language, I guess. They're devising a plan over long term of what amenities we want to put in. We don't immediately have the money to put every amenity in, so we have to devise a plan over time and gather the money and over a 4 or 5 year period put something in. So if there's something in specific that you're looking for, those would be 2 areas to go to, 2 committee groups to go to express an idea or a plan you have.
I echo what Sally just said. If you put together a proposal, take it to the activities committee, bring it on up through them, they'll eventually get to the finance and the board to evaluate and make a recommendation on. And we've been very diligent about considering everything that has come up to it. So far, I can tell you in 5 years on the finance committee, we have not seen any additional recommendations about the swim team and support for the swim team other than the support that we've provided.
Thank you.
Hi, Ralph Abrams, 116 Harleston. I've lived here 10 years and have seen a lot of growth, a lot of really well-managed growth. One area I'm interested in how we can manage is the deer population. It continues to get worse, and we have less lots that we can use the archery club. And I don't know legally or what we can do, but it is getting to be herds instead of just a few cute little ones in the front yard.
Well, I know that there is we have people who go out and kill them for us on the properties that they can. I think that my wife spreads peanut butter outside so they come through the backyard so they can probably stand on the back deck and just shoot them. With a bow and arrow, mind you. But I think that that's one of the things that makes Fort Colony different, is the little 4-legged deer that come through every once in a while. I don't want to see them all go, but as you say, some of them should.
I hate to admit I'm not an expert on the deer. I know there's an archery club that has a certain period of time that they can go out and cull the herds. I know they have done a certain amount each year, and they do a presentation to the board at the end of each year as to what their numbers were and what they experienced, to let us know. I also know that, if I recall correctly, they have said that they don't think they're necessarily doing what they do is enough to control the herds, and I think we all see that. There just seem to be more and more. As we build out Ford's Colony, and we have to build it out, there's not so much woods for them to go live in, so they're going to live in your, on your bushes and in your front yard. There are limitations to what you can do. We're in a community. You can't go after them in your front yards. You have to, be so far from the houses. You all know that. And so I guess what I said really is, I don't know how you're going to control them.
Ralph, I can sympathize. I have a herd that runs through my backyard all the time. Fortunately, they like the golf course a little better than my backyard. So, it is a complex issue. I know the board has been addressing it. They also have to work with the state natural resources and laws and regulations, and then the county. So I think they're doing a fairly good job of what they can do. It's just that, as they say, there's circumstances right now, whereas we've built out, we're taking more of their habitat, and so they're moving into our habitat.
It's not just the build out in Ford's Colony. Look around Ford's Colony. Look at the neighboring lands where there is homes going up everywhere. We're in their turf. And interestingly, State Fish and Games told us about 2 years ago that we should be taking out about 85 deer. And then they put forth a regulation that says you must take a doe before you can take a buck. And that's an interesting concept, because a guy can sit in a tree stand, watch all the bucks go by that he'd love to have as trophies, and he can't shoot them because he has to have a doe taken first that he is actually recorded legally. All that said, in my new house, I'm feeding them well. I really think that our archery club does the best they can do within a limited window. We also have an issue of, we really don't want these folks hunting right in our immediate backyards. Let's be honest, you really don't want arrows going by your backyard. So they're limited to where they can go, but as we develop more and more acreage around Ford's Colony in general, you're going to see more deer on your property. And they get about just less than 3 months with the bow and arrow to go out and get them. They usually take out 30 plus a year. So that's considerable, yeah, but no, it's not enough to keep it so that you don't see deer.
Thank you. Is there another question? Before we take you, is there another question since you've gone once? Okay, we'll go with you. Sir? Sally?
Patrick Cox, 112 Seminole. So you mentioned, I think, the Activities Committee meetings. I think one challenge there is that people of my generation are still working. I believe that's like a 9 a.m. on a Thursday, something like that. Is there, give me ideas or any way we can make that meeting more accessible to people that are working? Say, have like maybe a WebEx or a video conference, so people that are away from this facility could actually attend the meeting.
I would suggest that your first thing to do, contact the managing agent, sit down and have a discussion with them, and I'm sure they'll be willing to meet with you out of normal daytime hours. All right? Do that, and they'll come back to the board or to the activities committee leadership group with whatever you're thinking and see what can be worked out. I don't think I'm not going to ask 60 plus interest groups and everything else to change the meeting date, but what I'm saying is there's a way of your message getting to those people. But go through the managing agent. I think that's the right channel. And whatever the concerns are, I think if you went that channel, we would know about it quite quickly. Okay?
Sally, did you have anything?
Yeah, I would, Sally did a great job.
I know.
I would also suggest that you reach out to the heads of some of these committees, like facilities, if it's a specific amenity that you're interested in, or the activities committee. I would be more than, I'm positive that the chairs of those committees would gladly meet with you in hours that you could meet. If you had 2 or 3 or a group of people that wanted to discuss something with the activities committee, I am sure that Joanne Butterworth would meet with you. I'm sure that Art Nigro would meet with you. You know, the board would make an effort if you wanted to do that. If you had a group of people, you had a plan, you had a proposal, or even just, you know, this coffee with the board thing. If you wanted to get a group of people together and have a discussion with one of the board members, we'd gladly reach out to that. But we would have to ask you to take the ball and, you know, run with it, or start the procedure.
Ken, do you have anything? Chris, do you have anything?
I would just like to say that it would be very easy if you got a hold of the managing agent or the chairman of those committees. They're looking to start a focus group for you people specifically and try and get a time that's convenient for you. Right now, we don't see a time that's convenient for you because on top of every day running around after school and after work, you got to do homework and other activities. So if you guys come up with a time that's convenient, I'm sure the board and the managing agent would be more than willing to sit down.
Thank you. Yes, sir? This goes to Ken.
Amir Korostani, 103 Blackheath. I'd like to...
Could you put the microphone closer to your...
Sure.
Thank you.
I think a comment was made with respect to James City County also contributing towards the sewer line remedy. I was wondering if it's a one-time, the size of the contribution, potential contribution, or would it be spread over the next 10 years?
Ken, do you...
I think that's best. I'll defer over to George on what the board has had on it. I haven't seen anything come up on where I've been involved on it.
I think a comment was made that JCC is planning to contribute.
We are annually making applications for grants from James City County. We've been successful. The process has a couple of little quirks in it. You make your proposal last year. They tell you if you're getting the money in the early part of the year, but you don't get any money until June and July. That said, we are hopeful of getting a significant amount of money this year to pay for the cammering. These are not sewer lines, these are drainage lines. There's a big difference. This is not sanitary sewer. This is street drainage, this is normal seepage from properties and all that go into the ponds. They are very much knowledgeable that there's a lot of water that comes from outside of Ford's Colony through Ford's Colony to other locations to eventually get to the Powhatan Creek or someplace else. I think with that in mind is one of the reasons that they've been cooperating with us to make sure that our particular waterways within Ford's Colony are being maintained and kept up to date to keep that water moving. We certainly don't want it backing up here. But in applying for the grants, we are hopeful that that will supplement. I think this $400, as Sally said earlier, is a one-time situation for this year. I believe we have the opportunity, once everything is cambered, to know the entire scope of what our issue is. And I also believe that we have the ability within our capital reserve plan, because we've already put $190,000 for 10 years into that, into the future, to cover what those expenses would be down the road. Knowing what your problem is 99% of this issue. We have to put a total statistical and dollar number around what the problem is, and that's what we're doing by putting a camera through everywhere where we suspect there's any issues. Does that answer your question?
Yes, do we have any general sense of the number? You said it's a very significant amount.
The number that we believe is the total problem is up between $3.4 and $3.6 million. If we extrapolate, that's where we believe the number
I'm
is.
sorry, I meant JCC.
The grants run each year,
This year's
113,000 this year we've applied for. You never know for sure. Last year we got 60-something, I think. They don't always have the same amount of money available for grants, but we'll take it, whatever it is, if we can get it, right? It's less money that we, as a group, have to put into the program. Hopefully that answered that question.
Chris, do you have anything?
No.
Sally?
I think the only thing I'd like to put a plug in for Ryan Lee on this drainage pipe, for two reasons. He has sat through, I'm not sure whether it's 60 or 80 or 100 hours of looking at the interior of our drainage pipes to understand. So he deserves kudos. And in addition, he's the one who puts in the request for the grants and has put in the grant proposals for the last X number of years and this year. An excellent addition to our MA staff. Just in case you don't know him, if you see him, it's a thank you for the job you do.
Okay, we probably have time for one more question. Is there just one more question out there? Okay, we'll see if we can take the two. This, sir, will go first, and ma'am, you'll be second. And then we'll go to closing statements. This is going to George.
Hi, George. Chris Klima, Ford's Colony Drive. I'm interested in your philosophies on self-policing. I think it's a great neighborhood, great neighbors, but there are a few folks that encroach on the golf course or covenant problems or let their dogs run loose, that kind of thing. So just a quick thing on each person's philosophy on how to deal with the bad behavior by our neighbors.
Great question. By all estimates, we have 5,500 people here in Ford's Colony. Anybody who knows me, who's heard me in discussion, is there's this 5% that we have problem with. And self-policing. One, I encourage you, if your neighbor is a problem, really try to talk to your neighbor, right? That's first. If that doesn't work, we have a number of avenues that can be handled, which all come through the managing agent. If there's a definite violation of our covenants, certainly that can be reported. We will follow up on it. You don't have to be uniquely involved in that process. If it's visible, we can see it. Dogs, I've been here 18 years. Yes, there are some people who let dogs run loose. We have cats running loose. We have a constant annual issue with that, and we normally go and tell the people that this is not acceptable. Ford's Colony has a leash law. James City County does not, but we do. When you walk your dog in, when you take your dog out in Ford's Colony, it's to be on a leash. You see a lot of people not doing that. Well, Ford's Colony has a leash law. Self-policing. Up to a point, it's good, but then I would definitely suggest that you go forward. If it's a repeated situation, that you let the managing agent know, and they'll follow up, because we have a common interest here, and that's to keep this place sparkling. And when people aren't cooperating in that effort, we need to take action.
Chris?
I'd like to say that we wish everyone would clean up after their dogs and put them on a leash, but unfortunately, that's not happening. So what we have to do is just make sure that you take your issue to the MA, and if necessary, Covenants Committee will follow up and put an answer to your problem.
So, relative to covenants, obviously, as everybody said, you start with the MA, and in their office, they have people who have some expertise in dealing with with our residents and different problems and making them understand what the standards are. And in fact, the Covenants Committee itself is extremely pleased with the front office because they say they handle more than 80% of the problems just in having a conversation. Once it gets past the MA, we do have a Covenants Committee, and they will issue a letter, they can issue fines, they can eventually take it to court. For the most part, we don't want to go to court, we don't want to get into that, but we will take it to the furthest level that you have to take to try to make sure people maintain their properties. I want to add one caveat. It's an issue that we're an aging population, and some of our aging population can't keep their property or don't notice the problems they have. So it's not always as easy as you think it is to say, why don't they get the leaves raked? Why don't they bring the garbage cans in? Why don't they paint the signpost? Some of them don't see it, some of them can't quite arrange it. So you need a little bit of understanding, I think, of who you're dealing with. If you're dealing with one of those folks, offer to paint their signpost or something like that. But on the other hand, seriously, start with the MA, and there is a procedure that's written into our bylaws and written into our other governing documents as to how you handle these and at what time period you send letters and how you handle them.
I think George's and Sally have covered this very completely. I'll just add to the fact that the MA is very good at working with the committees when they find an issue that hasn't been addressed before to go out, evaluate it, and recommend new standards up through the committees to the board so the board can adopt and address other problems that just aren't foreseen.
The MA is also here, the managing agent, Drew Mulhare, so I'm sure after the meeting, if you have something that you'd like to discuss with him, I'm sure he'd be happy to. Okay, one more question was over here. Just a minute. Thank you.
I'm Cindy Hermes, 105 Kingdom of Fife. My question is, George mentioned the increased build-out in this whole area, not only Ford's Colony. Sally, you mentioned the $500,000 proffer for a stoplight. I really hope that the board will consider a stoplight because coming down Centerville Road, I'm the little old lady with white hair that turns my blinker on right after I turn because I have 3 people right on my tail. And it is, we need either a right-hand turn lane there or a light. And I don't know, it's just, I know you guys have looked at this many times, how many apartments or new condos are going to be going in near Eagle Cliff, but you can probably figure 2 cars to each one of those units. So I really, this is a very expensive proposition, but I hope that we will continue to consider this, because I think it's becoming dangerous many times.
Chris is next.
Oh God, no, George gets to talk last. That's not good for you people. I think that the board will continue to do due diligence to make sure we stay on top of all of those issues. And they have done a great job in the past and will continue to do it.
I agree with you that we need a left turn lane. I really, right turn lane, unless you want to go to Dominion Village. I agree that we need that. It is, there's a VDOT program to do Centerville Road in 3 stages. The first stage we're seeing right now, it's being worked on. The second and third stages aren't funded, they're ideas. What did I say? I'm sorry, excuse me, Long Hill Road. The first section you're seeing going on right now, and the second and third sections, we're talking about the light at Ford's Colony Drive, right? That's okay. So the second and thirds are just conceptual projects right now, and as George said, maybe in the last meeting, by the time they get to the third one, we probably won't be around here anymore. But it includes the right-hand turn lane. And part of the reason we want a little more information about that because we don't want to pay to put a right-hand turn lane in on property that we don't currently own, but we know people who do own it. We don't want to pay for that if VDOT is going to come along in some period of time and redo the road such that that would have been wasted money. Because there is some discussion about changing exactly where the road is in front of Ford's Colony Drive in the future. So, I agree with you, a right-hand turn lane would be a wonderful thing. It would be safer. We're all very aware of that, but we're trying to figure out how that works with the VDOT plan.
I can tell you from my experience working with the roads and property management, that's just one part of one of the issues out there at Fords Colony Drive entrance. The other part of it, and the management agent is working very much with VDOT to see if they can get it done, is the left turn lane to come in ends too soon. It should be extended out to the lane that you're going to be turning into. And they are addressing that problem too, again, with the proper people, with VDOT, and see if we can come to a collaborative agreement where we aren't paying for something that VDOT should be doing anyway. So I'll let the last word go to George. He has the definitive.
There is Phase 2 and Phase 3 of Long Hill actually realigns Long Hill Road. So where you think Long Hill Road is now, in the current plans, Long Hill Road actually moves left and right depending on where you are if you went out our main entrance and went left. To the point of, there is actually a situation which came up that highlighted this with New Zion Baptist Church, where they could almost be on a dead end, with the realignment of Long Hill, the way it is being viewed in the future phases. We have been following up, and there is no proposal to fund Phase 2 or Phase 3. That's an important distinction to saying there's no funding. They haven't brought that to a high enough priority right now within the state to talk about funding Phase 2 and Phase 3. So it's a long time off. We are News Road in Centerville. The construction started this past week. They put up 3 signs. You can't write this stuff. That is getting turned. And I appreciate it, that the left-hand turn lanes, it will be very helpful there, because at certain times of the day, that's a tough left too, with traffic going by. With the traffic light and turn lanes, that should help. You might remember that was originally proposed to be a traffic circle. We did have some voice about that, and they decided, no, that didn't make any sense. But we have a traffic circle coming on Long Hill, and that is a part of, like I said, a 3-phase plan for which Phase 2 and 3 are not even being discussed to fund it at this time.
Okay, thank you for all of your questions. We're going to be moving to closing statements, and Ken is first.
First, I want to thank. You turned it off. Okay, I'm back on. First, I'd like to thank all of you for coming out and showing your interest. It's a very good sign that we have a good turnout. You should be interested. This is your community. This board of governors and the people who serve on this are here to represent you and your interests. And thank you for coming out. I want to thank Denise for setting all of this up and all of the help we have through here. I would like to say that I really enjoy living in this community because we have a very good management structure, a good board of directors that looks out for our interests. I am very eager to participate on that board of directors to continue to make sure that we assess everything, get all the facts, and make a best value decision for you as they have in the past. And they've done a great job in the past, and that's why I love this community, and that's why I want to serve on your board of directors.
Thank you to the nominating committee. thank you to my fellow candidates. Thank you all for coming. There's a lot going on in Ford's Colony, as you've heard. There's an awful lot to keep track of. I have been aware and closely involved in most of it. I hope that came out. I'm ready to continue working for you and contribute, and that's now. Ford's Colony is a great place to live because of concerned owners, concerned volunteers, and because of great amounts of dedication. Nobody sitting here cannot say they wouldn't be dedicated. You have to be, because there's a tremendous amount that's going on, and we have to know what's going on at any given moment. I'm running because I want to keep Ford's Colony the leading destination. I want to support your homeowner prices. I want to keep assessments as low as reasonable. And reasonable is important because we have things going on that we need to fund. I sincerely ask for your vote. I will continue working for you, and most importantly, for all of us, to keep this place great. Thank you.
I want to thank each of you for coming out this morning and listening to each of the candidates for your board of directors, especially me. I would also like to thank the nominating committee who saw something in me that they again chose me to be one of the candidates. Each of the candidates today made some very strong arguments for why they should be elected to this very important position. I hope that my credentials and vision for what I hope to do for you, the residents of Ford's Colony, let you cast your vote for me. I can promise each of you, nobody will work harder for you to keep Ford's Colony the premier multi-generational community that we all love.
Okay, once again, I want to thank you all for spending your Saturday morning listening to the four of us describe our reasons for running for the board. I hope we gave you enough information to make an informed choice. I did want to mention one additional point. Thursday night, one of the audience members asked us what was the unique strength I and each of my colleagues would bring to the board. I didn't answer the question very well that night, but I've thought about it. I think one of my strengths is that I ask questions. As an example, I would mention the nature trail. The Homeowners Association added it as an asset last year, and the initial cost for needed repairs was $125,000. I was concerned about that number and asked at a board work session if there was sufficient use of the trail to warrant the expenditure. RPM set up a task force headed by Jim Baldridge to address the repair needs and costs. At the same time, the MA management agent put cameras along the trail to get a count of users. If I recall correctly, there were more than 100 people using the trail during a 3-week period, which I consider a sizable number. The Nature Trail Task Force worked up a schedule of what repairs and replacements were needed, and Jim found suppliers that provided the wood we need for substantially less than retail. The MA provided the staff to do the actual repair, and is working on it, and will work on it. And our current cost estimate is well less than half the original outside contractor cost. I'd like to think that some of the savings is due to my initial questions. I hope I've given you a good picture of my interest and work ethic in being on the board. I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you to all the candidates. Let's just give them another round of applause. Again, thank you for coming out this morning. We appreciate it. Thank you, Drew, Sally, Audrey, Jenny, the nominating committee. And please remember to vote. You can vote. Electronic voting ends at noon on January 31st. Thank you.